episode, another show. Just saying what's up to the good people out there. Hopefully folks out there learning. It's Black History Month. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully out here learning and learning about history, man, learning about culture, man, about Black experience, man. It's something tonight that's what we're gonna talk about is about Black history and how kind of these stories of firsts. It's good to tell stories of people who are quote unquote exceptional. You know what I'm saying? But we're regurgitating the same stories. You know what I mean? Malcolm X and Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks and the peanut dude, the dude that did all this stuff with peanuts and
Yeah.
stuff like that, and we don't tell the story of where we are today, and that's what Black history is about, right? Because there's a lot of people who will complain about, they'll watch on TikTok or something, they'll complain about appropriation in some sort of way. You know what I'm saying? Well, that's because we aren't talking about our culture, our history in the now. You know what I'm saying? We aren't speaking of it right now. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of times, it get lost. You know what I mean? So that's what we're gonna talk about, man. Just kind of Black history. You know what I'm saying? And how we got to talk about it all. We talk about the past. We talk about the exceptional, quote unquote, exceptional Negroes. You know what I'm saying? The people that did overcame many obstacles, but sometimes it leaves out the rest of us. You know what I mean? Who are overcoming, and we just don't make the newspapers, or we don't make you know. Um, and we don't make it into the history books, but we are being exceptional because our lineage has survived. You know what I mean? Our heritage has survived. Our culture has survived. You know what I mean? So we need to tell the stories through those lenses. Yep, yep. With that, what's up, bro?
Oh man, nothing much, man. Yeah. Um, Nothing much, man. Just out here, just trying to be Black 365 and
But
keep it that way. You know what I'm saying? Keep on learning, keep striving, keep making sure that stay in the fight for the community as much as I can. Trying to find places that I can really volunteer. Um,
mhm.
that's one thing that I'm trying to do this year is take some time to serve the community rather than just be a part of the community.
Yeah, 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 man. I know that was one thing that I did, and somebody hooked me up, man. Told me about you know a volunteer opportunity here where I'm at, man. So that's what I'm gonna go do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
After you raise kids and stuff, man, that's one of those things to where I'm like, I'm I don't know, so I would say I'm self conscious about me being a father. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And a lot of times I feel like I wasn't the best father, and in reality, I just wasn't the best father, you know what I'm saying? And, I had a conversation with my son, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I was like, hey man, I'm sorry, dad, I wasn't the best dad, you know what I'm saying? But, try and thank you. It's like, hey dad, don't worry. We turned out good. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm. Mhm.
And that's how I gotta, that's how I gotta remind myself of that conversation all the time, man, because it made me feel good, man. It made me feel good, it wasn't the best, but we tried it, you know what I mean? And it's just sad now seeing a lot of Black men perpetuate this myth of fatherlessness. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And one thing me and you talked about was you know, um a lot of times when a lot of these Black men are talking about fatherlessness, they're talking about their circle. They're not using any data to talk about the whole, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And also they're getting this information from a Pew Research study that was done in 2011. You know what I'm saying? And they don't repeat what what the rest of the findings say. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That was done in 2000 and 2011. You know what I'm saying? A lot of it had to do with finances. So, and number one, number two, fatherlessness. Had to do with finances. That's not
Yeah.
number one, but that's number two. Number one, the main reason of that research was they were only capturing those homes that was married. in married
Mhm.
homes. That's key, and you know, people aren't putting two together. You know what I'm saying? They're not paying attention to the words in the study. You know, and so, in the marital study, and by the way, this Black history. We talking about
Mm.
Black fathers. You know what I'm saying? I was just thinking about this for some odd reason. Oh, because I watched a video of Michael Irvin and Ryan Clark. Brought up Jalen Hurts' dad, or Jalen Hurts and Pat Mahomes' dad, fathers.
Right.
And Michael Irvin, for some reason, had to mention fatherlessness, and that wasn't the point that Ryan Clark was bringing their
Mm.
fathers up.
Mhm.
The point he was bringing it up was that, generally in these conversations about Black athletes, it's about, oh, the dad was locked up, the mom was, a drug dealer, and all this other stuff. You know what I'm saying? And Ryan
Mhm.
Clark was saying, hey, we need to tell the positive narrative of Black fathers.
Yeah.
And Michael Irvin, being the boomer that he is, you know what I'm saying,
Mhm.
and a Black boomer, 73% of homes fathers, you know what I'm saying, just regurgitating this stuff, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So I knew exactly what he was talking about and where he was talking about. So I just went straight to that study. I'm like,
Mhm.
yeah, I know I'm not losing my mind. You know what I'm saying? But mainly that study was about it's coming out of the recession, so
Mhm.
a lot of people weren't, so that's part of it. But the other part is that that 73% he was talking about, it was talking about all fathers. It wasn't talking about just Black fathers.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying,
Mhm.
it is repeated again. Actually, it does talk about 73% of Black fathers. Sorry. Um, but a lot of that is connected to economics, right? So if you don't have a high school degree, you can only earn a certain amount of money, and therefore you are more than likely to not be married or marry, and be in a home with your child. Versus the other end of the spectrum is, if you have a college education or higher degree, you earn more money, and therefore you are more likely to marry and more likely to be in the home of your child. You know what I'm saying? You know, and the other part of that study, they were talking about that people miss is that again, we were coming out of the recession. The other part of the study is that they miss, and that they're not connecting the dots to, is another study that said that people just aren't getting married anymore.
Yeah.
People are cohabitating.
Mhm.
Again, during this study in 2011, this is when, you know what I mean, that trend of people cohabitating started in like the early 2000s. So by the
Mhm.
time you hit 2011, there's going to be less married families. However, there are fathers who are living with their partner. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? And that study doesn't capture that study. You know what I'm saying? So.
So so to connect what you're saying, um, and there also has been previous studies, right?
Hmm.
Updated studies to all of that information,
Yeah.
which shows the participation in the Black community and other groups, um, as far as reading with your child, giving them a bath, those kind of fatherly things, which shows Black men outperforming every culture.
Yeah.
A-
Yeah. Yeah.
and again, to keep a narrative of, you know, the Black fatherless home is not the right narrative, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
and the things that you're pointing out is, and probably going to be the theme of what we kind of get into in the conversation, is, you know, um, one, hypocrisy, two, comprehension,
Yeah.
um, of context, with context, and then three, um, dropping old narratives, man.
Hmm.
Dropping old narratives. That's literally going to be the theme of everything that we get into, because we are at a real pivotal point. And people like Michael Irvin will never grow past where he is. He has peaked as
Hmm.
far as where he's willing to learn, what information he's willing to take in, who he's willing to sit down with and get more information, uh, different people that he's willing to connect with outside of his class. That is just not going to happen for him. And we talked about it before. You brung up a few times on the podcast that the being obsessed with celebrities, right? And we as a culture got to learn to start checking out from celebrities. Like when they start talking about things outside of their realm, and it's sad to say, this is starting to make the shut up and dribble more true than it is false.
Mm,
That's the sad part
mhm,
because the wrong people are speaking.
mhm,
It's different when LeBron is actually taking his time out to learn, right? About certain things, as far as where the black culture needs help and so forth. So he's getting the data, he's getting the information, and being able to talk about it. And then you have a person like a Michael Irvin on the opposite end who isn't taking the time to learn nothing outside of what he thinks or what he heard.
or what he heard, yeah, what he heard, and he's
Yeah,
just regurgitating it. Mhm,
and
mhm,
Michael Irvin gets a platform that he doesn't get pushed back, and nobody rebukes what he says, anything. LeBron gets a platform and he gets pushback.
mhm,
But yet he took the time out to look at the studies. And
mm,
he has people around him that are professionals
mm,
at what they are studying.
yeah,
And this is how, someone like no, what's this guy name, man? He loved racist white people. He
oh,
liked the
Jason Whitlock,
Jason Whitlock.
yeah,
Like this is how we get to these people with Jason Whitlock, Tim Scott, and
mhm,
and and like this is how we get there.
yeah, Candace Owens,
And
yeah,
Candace Owens and all of these things, man. And that's the stuff that you really trying to point out, man.
mm. Yeah, yeah, and that yeah, man, we live in a society to where people don't go search and look for information. They want the information to come to them. And if the information doesn't come to them, well then it doesn't exist. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? It doesn't exist. It's not real, you know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
I had a conversation with an individual and they were talking about they haven't seen Kamala Harris, you know what I'm saying? Oh, she hasn't been doing anything. I'm like, yeah, she has. Well, I haven't seen it. Well, that's because 'cause you're not looking for it,
Yeah.
right? You're waiting for somebody to bring you this information, you know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? And the way and people need to understand, like, the algorithms and things of that nature. The only time because of the way algorithms work, it is dependent upon what you search. So if you spend all day searching cats playing with yarn, you're going to see every version of a cat playing with yarn. So
Don't exist.
that's what I'm
Dogs.
saying, and that's exactly exactly what happens, you know what I'm saying? I don't ever see any dogs
Yeah.
playing, you know what I'm saying? It's like, well, you're not looking for it, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So that's what happens, you know what I mean? That's what happens in the Black culture, especially, when we talk about Black history.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? A lot of it is that we're waiting. A lot of people are waiting to be told about what Black history is. You know what I mean? Rather than being curious and going to find these things, you know what I'm saying? To understand what it is, you know what I'm saying? And then you get into conversations, you know what I'm saying? And people then, allow Black people to wonder why somebody like me will call you, can understand that you Black, but I can also understand that you are anti-Black.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, and if you can't understand why I'm telling you that you're anti-Black, then that's on you. You have to be curious enough to be like, all right, why is this person saying this? And is what they're saying, real? You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Where did this information come
Where did
from?
this information come from?
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Yeah.
Because you can draw a line, right? You
Mm,
can literally draw a line to certain statements that align either politically, socially, and educational,
mhm,
right? And these these things are regurgitated over and over through history and time.
mhm,
Yeah, do they? do they have modifications and so forth to the way that it's presented and so forth? Like, yeah. And one thing I'm starting to realize is that things are so repeated that we don't really realize how much of a loop that we're living in.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. Yep. Yeah, we are. That's just true.
Like, man, like, it blew my mind, like, when I sat back and really thought about, like, we are really living in a loop. Like, and the reason why we're having a hard time because it's better than what we seen our grandparents go through. And that is the problem that we really have is we think that because we live in a nicer, bigger home, that our struggles are still not the same as our grandparents.
Mhm, mhm.
And that's how we're being detached from the group.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, man, because we aren't willing to understand the economic, struggles our grandparents went through. You know what
Mhm.
I'm saying? Even our parents, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
I think about this all the time about how moms how, when mom was a secretary, right? That
Right.
was that was her career path.
Mhm.
And we watched her get pushed out of a job because of technology,
Yeah.
right? She could not keep up, even though she tried, right?
Mhm.
Because she bought that word processor. Because remember we had a typewriter, old school
Mhm.
typewriter for the longest, and then she bought the word processor and
Mhm.
things of that nature. You know what I'm saying? But she couldn't keep up. She couldn't keep up with with technology. She couldn't just simply be a secretary. She had to learn about software.
Yeah.
She had to learn about software, and she was trying to learn about software.
Mhm.
Go to school and do all this stuff. She just couldn't compete with the young people who was already growing up with that knowledge and that
Yeah.
information, and they could type.
Yeah.
So she got pushed out of the job. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So because of technology, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, what we so today, when we are talking about economics, we're talking about it for our kids because our kids, are being going to be pushed out of jobs.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Because of technology, they have to learn how to. I was just telling my daughter this the other day was they have to learn how to do like gig, work, do
Mhm.
some other side hustle because of the changing economics. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? The world changing and how if and why we got to push them to more tech. We got to push more of our kids into mathematics and science and into tech fields
Mhm.
and things of that nature because well, you know listen to these old dudes, man. You know what I'm saying? Whether they like it or not, the gas cars are going away,
Yeah.
right? Dodge said they ain't making the Hemi no more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Ford, they're not going to be making gas vehicles. They already said it. You know what I mean? The big companies said they ain't making gas vehicles no more. You know what I mean? These old dudes can resist it as much as they want. You
Yeah.
know.
Harley Davidson is no longer making gas motorcycles.
So you know what I'm saying. So you either go or you get left behind, man. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? Yeah, man.
But what this is the lesson of over 400 years of the South because they were not willing to move along with society and the world. They got left behind. Man, I have like man living in the South, bro. Like we came down here and like people like we went to stores that didn't take debit cards.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
It's crazy.
and it is real that you come across stores like that, and then we sitting back saying, "Oh, well, do you got a Cash App? Do you got a Zillow? What's that?" Man, this is 2022, man.
22, dog.
Like, you should be able to literally move funds in multiple ways,
Hmm.
and we're in the South, and they wonder why that they have so many poor towns. Is because they were not willing to move along with the world and technology.
Yeah.
And they're going to get left again because they're still fighting the same culture war.
exactly, and that's what it is about. It's about culture wars, right? This is what we see with Ron DeSantis,
Mm.
Black History Month. This is fighting a cultural war. You know
Oh,
what I mean?
Ron the racist.
Oh, Ron the racist, man. I call him Ron the fascist because
Yeah.
it's funny because the Republican Party loves small government until they're ready to use it against other people. They create big government all the time. I try to tell my
Yeah.
Republican friends this all the time, man. Like, look, the party of big government is Republicans. They create big government all the time. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, what do you think the Stop Woke Act did? It created big government. Now you need oversight of it. That means
Yes.
you're hiring more people. That means government is more bureaucracy. It created more
Yep.
bureaucracy. And like
Yep.
so you're expanding government. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Every time, yeah, every law, you know what I'm saying? Like you just they they don't get it, man. You know.
But this time the government is prying into people's lives.
Mhm. Mhm.
Like this is what you create, man. And like after man, what are you talking about? You talking about maybe 110 years, 15 years, maybe? Like
Mhm.
this has been the process of that whole thing that I remember, right? And they still don't get what the Republican Party has technically always been.
Yeah, pretty much.
They have rebranded, renamed, but they have never changed what their core was.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
this is like Ron DeSantis to do what he's doing and then thinking that he's going to run to be president of
Mm.
a whole entire nation after that because he thinks everything is Florida
Mm.
and everybody thinks the same as in Florida.
Mhm.
And on top of that, him fudging the voting the way that it was by stomping out a class of people from voting.
Pretty much.
You won't be able to do that for a whole entire nation.
Yeah, but he knows he'll get big enough numbers.
Yes.
He knows that the middle of the country. Here's the thing that he knows, and Nikki Haley knows, and any other person that's going to run for president know. They know that the Republican Party is majority white, right?
Yeah.
They know that the Republican Party, the majority of them have low education
Mhm.
or have a high school degree or lower,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
They know that a lot of them still hold bigoted ideas and,
Mhm.
and ideals. You know what I'm saying? And they know a lot of them are. They know a good majority of them are racist. You know what I'm saying? So so this is why you just throw the red meat of hey, look at me attacking the black people. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
Look at me attacking. And in that, you know what I mean? He also understood that black people or there are black men, right?
Mhm.
Oppose LGBTQ. I won't say black men. There's a portion of black men who are
Mhm.
anti-LGBTQ, and
Mhm.
this is why he went after queer studies. Because if you go after queer studies, well, then some black man is going to be like, "Oh, see, all of it needs to get thrown out." You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and at the same time, they're going to share a Martin Luther King quote and not even realize that one of Martin Luther King's friends was Baynard Rustin, a gay
Right.
black man who Martin Luther King knew was gay.
Yeah.
Okay, and or they'll share something from James Baldwin or Angela Davis. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying?
Mhm.
And you know what I mean? And yeah, they'll just be totally oblivious to it. You know what I'm saying? But all they know is that yeah, queer studies. Nope, I got to get rid of the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like they just play on the fact that the Republican Party and people who are right wing um, have a have a can have a sixth grade comprehension level. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
The
Mhm.
majority of people in this country read on a sixth grade level, and they had therefore have a sixth grade comprehension level. You know what
Mhm.
I'm saying? So they can't understand context. However,
Right.
I don't need context to point out, to appeal to your feelings. I just need a meme. I just need to say something, and I just need to say AP, African American AP history. I got rid of queer. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Immigrant immigrants,
Yeah.
Mexican, you know what I mean? Like, that's all I need to say. I don't need to have these long drawn out conversations, you know what I'm
Yeah, yeah. So there's also been studies done on the use of memes, right? And they're prevalent on on a more on one ideology more than the other.
saying?
They're more prevalent on the right wing rather than left because the association is that they found out lower educated people use memes because they cannot comprehend in a long text form. Like, this is why when people keep posting memes because they don't have a deeper understanding of what that meme is actually saying. What is the context? Where did it come from? Where did it derive from? Like,
Mhm,
they don't have that understanding, but, you know, and we had this conversation before about a gentleman who constantly was using memes and so
mhm,
forth.
mhm.
Just like, look, dude, you got to understand, like it doesn't have any context. It doesn't have anything that gives you a greater understanding of what is the intention
Right.
behind it.
Yeah, yeah. What's the intent? Yeah.
Yeah, and this is one of the things that we are starting to also see be used, especially because Russia is using it against, um, especially Black people.
Mhm, mhm,
Um,
mhm,
because again, in our particular group, we don't read enough,
mhm, mhm.
and we need information be told to us by a celebrity.
Yeah, yeah. We'll believe a celebrity before you would believe anybody else.
Yeah, and
Mhm,
and we don't have enough scholars that actually sit down and talk to our group. You know what I
mm,
mean? Because a lot of a lot of people in our group, man, ain't listening to Cornell, Dr. Cornell West.
mm, mm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, but this is the person that you should be following
Yes, it
before
is.
you go listen to Umar, Dr. Umar Johnson
Marjan or Charlemagne the God
or
or
Charlemagne the God.
Charlemagne the God. You know what I'm saying? Or I said Charlemagne. Said his name twice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
No, no, but
Mhm,
you're right, Charlemagne the God. Or
mhm.
or Gilly the Kid.
Or Gilly the
Or
Kid,
you know what I'm saying? Like,
or
yeah. You
Mike
can't get no
Word.
real
You
yeah,
know
you
what
can't
I'm
get
saying?
no
Like, you can't,
right.
you ain't
You
getting no
can't get no real information from Wallow.
yeah, yeah, you're not getting no information from them, man.
And it's no knock to them,
With
but
context.
it's just the context, man, because you need the context in a educational manner
Mhm, mhm.
for
Especially
you to go
no,
ahead.
no, go ahead, I'm sorry, bro.
No, I was actually just
Yeah, yeah.
just done, man. Gary put the stamp on it because this is crazy.
Yeah, yeah, especially when it comes to politics, man, and it comes to regular everyday black people's lives, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think one thing, as you said, was that, the, these millionaires and stuff, they can only tell you the issues from their class. They
Yeah.
can't tell you the issues if you're lower class. So if they're making $100 million,
Mhm.
they can only give you the issues of their class. And why is that? Because these people are still connected to family members and friends
Mhm.
who are of lower class, but that's it. That's their circle. That's it.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? They don't go outside that circle. You know what I'm saying? To give you actual, information, data, to
Mhm.
understand data, to understand context. You know
Mhm.
what I'm saying? Chicago is not like New York. New York is not like LA. LA is not like South Carolina, Greenville, South Carolina, Columbia, or Charleston.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. So you have to understand that before you indict a whole population of people. So when you talk about the groups of black people, you always have to keep it to things that touch, black people, which is policies, politics, environment, housing, um, uh, income. You know
Mhm.
what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Those are things. Education. Those are
Mhm.
things that touch all of us, and you can see the inequalities in, you know what I'm saying? And then those equalities and inequalities are going to vary wherever you at. You know what I'm saying? You go to PG County, and in Maryland, there's some rich black folk that live up there.
Oh,
They
yeah,
ain't, yeah,
yeah,
there's some rich black folk that live up there. Shoot, they
yeah,
could
they got
probably,
one of the richest, counties of black folk.
yeah, they could probably relate to the rich black folk in Atlanta. You
Mhm,
know,
mhm,
I mean, but they're not gonna be able to relate to all black people. So, and that's why it's important, for us when we're talking about Black history, that we have like Carter G. Woodson wanted it to be, but Carter G. Woodson, the founder of Black History Week, and he created and later became Black History Month. He had a basically a quarterly meeting to talk about Black history, and it would talk about the culture, right, where it is. You know what I'm saying? Um, who's where? You know what I'm saying? Language,
mhm,
religion, education. You know what I mean? Where
mhm,
are we at? Where are we at from a year ago?
mhm.
That's what the conversation should be. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And it's not, and it shouldn't be where we at now, where we're telling the story of firsts. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And we're telling the stories of quote unquote exceptional Negroes. You know what I'm saying? Nothing wrong with that. It's just that we politicians and people who are in control of the economics play on our ignorance. You know what I'm saying? So the whole point of what Ron the fascist is doing in Florida is so a generation of people will grow up not having the understanding that they can protest their government, or protest for higher wages, or try to get a better quality of life and things of that nature. And you learn about it in Black history.
Mhm,
Whereas in American history, yeah, you'll learn about some regular protests from certain groups of white people. You know what I'm saying? But mainly, what they want to regurgitate and teach is the formation of the country. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
And if people read the Declaration of Independence, man, the Declaration of Independence is a hypocritical document. Um,
Mm,
and it's a hypocritical document because in it they talked about, and I got it right here. I was reading it for Black History. That's what I was reading. I went and bought it at Books a Million, $2.
mm.
And
I carry one in my truck.
yeah, and I bought the Emancipation Proclamation.
Mm,
So I was reading both of these for Black History Month. You know what I'm saying? And as I was reading, I was like, man, what a hypocritical piece of document is the Declaration of Independence. Because
mm,
on one hand, you're talking about tyranny and oppression, but you don't want to end slavery, the practice of slavery.
huh,
Because people don't understand that in the original Declaration of Independence, Thomas Jefferson tries to end slavery. Basically, he's telling King George, like, yeah, you took these people from over here and you forced them into, you forced them in slavery, and now, we have this commerce and we're trafficking in these people and stuff like that. And so what happens is when they go to the original, when they go to basically certify the Declaration of Independence, they get two representatives from two states. I think it was South Carolina and I think it was South Carolina and North Carolina, I believe, I think, or Virginia. One of them. It was one of them. But basically, they're like, "Hey, Thomas Jefferson, you need to change that
huh.
because we're going to keep slavery."
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And so, and so he changes it, right? And he changes it to where he's talking about insurrections. You know what I'm saying? He talks about, and he talks about slavery, but he talks about it insurrection. He says here, he talking about King George, and he says he has excited domestic insurrections amongst us and has endeavored to bring on inhabitants of our frontier, the merciless Indian savages, whose known rule of warfare is an undistinguished destruction of all ages, sexes, and conditions.
Hmm,
Yeah, and so later when they write the Constitution, Thomas
mhm.
Jefferson again tries to end slavery, and South Carolina, North Carolina are like, "Hey, dog." It's like that SpongeBob meme.
Mm.
You, you know, how many times we got to teach you this lesson,
Yeah.
old man? And so in that so then in that it just changes to the three-fifth compromise. That's where you get the three-fifth compromise, and that's how slavery is written into the Constitution. You know what I'm saying?
Mm,
Yeah. And many people think that the Second Amendment again was about freedom and all this other stuff, but folk has to go back and read the Articles of Confederation. If you read the
mhm.
Articles of Confederation said only the federal government can have control of militias. Well, states they want to have control of militias. Why? What's going on at the time? The insurrections that Thomas Jefferson was talking about 11 years prior.
Yeah,
So that's what he was talking about. So then they're like, oh, well, we need to have, be able to take control of our own militias to stamp down these insurrections.
yeah, and
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, these insurrections were done by white people in in a lot of these capitals, and there was a historically significant insurrection that happened
Hmm.
that they then blamed the Indian tribes in the area for doing
Mm. Oh,
after white people basically stormed one of the government places. I
that,
can't remember.
yeah, that came later.
I came later.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, 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 yeah. John Brown happens.
Yes.
Well, it comes after the Second Amendment is signed. But you have John Brown's what it called? I can't remember. But you have John Brown. John Brown's trying to free slaves. He
Mhm.
has in Virginia. He has this plan, and of course, he gets snitched on by some, black folk.
Mm.
But a black person was it a black person? Yeah, I think so. In that one, black people just man, black folk who just wanted to keep black people where they were. And that's
We
really,
used to eat good here.
my gosh,
We used
man.
to eat good.
Reading another book called The Warmth of Other Suns, and it's basically talking about black people fleeing the South and moving up north, to Chicago, New York, or whatever.
Mhm.
And it would come to a point to where they're telling stories like where black people had to keep quiet. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? They had to not tell people that they were moving because people would then go tell the white people.
Wow.
So the white people would keep them there.
Wow.
I'm like, oh my God.
Well, it's
Yeah.
another look, it's another history lesson, right?
Mm.
That you're given that literally you can tie into current times. What do you think that Candace Owens and like uh
Jason Whitlock
Jacob
and
Whitlock and
that's
like those kind of people are over there telling those people?
yeah, man.
What do you
That's
think that they're doing?
Yeah, that's their whole point. Their whole point is to be within the culture and connected to the culture and things of that nature, so they then can go tell. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? So they
yeah,
then can keep black people in their place.
yeah,
That's what it is. That's what their job is. Their
yeah.
job is not allow you to flee. That's not their. You know what I'm saying?
Look, it wasn't a coincidence to me that after the election, when matter of fact, I think it was slightly before the election, that Candace Owens got teamed up with Ti and Killer Mike and all of those people to have a debate in front of black people. It wasn't a coincidence to me because she was there as the op.
Her and the other girl, our other lady,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
a-
Korean. I can't
And
remember.
they're running tape. They're
Mhm.
running tape on how black people are thinking.
Mhm.
And what starts to happen? What do we start seeing happen? We start seeing that they start rolling back about black education,
Yeah.
black history, like all of the
All
things
these things.
that they were talking about on the stage.
Yeah, 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 man. That's what you start to see. The
Like,
rollback, the rollback of Black history, the rollback of voting. You know what I mean?
mhm, mhm,
Because they're like, hey, well, they ain't gonna join us, so we just
yeah,
gonna we just gonna keep them from voting. That's what we're gonna do.
yeah,
We're gonna keep 'em from voting, and we're gonna continue what Ronald Reagan did. You know what I'm saying? Ronald Reagan defunded public schools. This is how a lot of people saw their music programs go away.
yeah,
Music programs and how you saw recess slowly go away. That started happening under George Bush. George Bush further underfunded schools
mhm,
and pushed the No Child Left Behind. What was that doing? Pushing
mm,
kids through school who could barely read.
mhm,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
A lot of them, guess how what age they are today? They're in their 30s.
Yep.
They're in their 30s. You dig what I'm saying? Or close to it. You know what I'm saying? And so this is the population, a good portion who gets targeted with these memes and
Mhm.
right wing ideology. And it is no coincidence that a lot of these folks on the right, these black folks on the right, I don't know why I put up quotes, but because that's what they actually are. These black folks on the right who regurgitate a lot of this nonsense. You know what I mean? When it comes to black history, and historical data, and they're always bringing up black on black crime, fatherlessness. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Because that's their job. Roland Martin recently had a dude, one of these black conservatives on, and he eviscerated this dude. It's just straight
Mhm.
of straight. He tried to come on there, and he looked like he was in his 30s or so. Straight eviscerated this dude, and it was man. I was like, dang. But I was like,
Wow.
that's how you have to handle these folks now. This is how we have to
Yeah.
handle our own folks now.
Yeah, it's no more kid gloves, man.
There's no more kid gloves, man, because they are the gatekeepers right now. They are those black people in the South. You know what I mean? This is how
Mhm.
things connect. They are those black people in the South who was spying on other black people and then going back and telling the sharecroppers, what I
Yeah.
mean, about their intentions, you know what I'm saying, of leaving and things of that nature. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? It was crazy, man. Yeah, I mean, it was just crazy. It was crazy. But one cool story in the book, because it was talking about how when black people would leave, they would fry chicken and have bread, and that's how they traveled. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean?
And what did mom do?
Yeah,
Every time we came back down south,
yeah.
fry some chicken,
Fries, some
and we
chicken.
got some bread, and
Yeah.
we headed back down here, man.
But
Look, gonna
yep,
go see pops and
yep.
everybody.
Yeah, it was crazy how that tradition, because originally these people did it because they didn't want to. They knew they wouldn't be able to stop in hotels.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or go to restaurants. So they
Mhm.
make sure that they have food, and of course, on a long travel. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And it was crazy, and that's what I was thinking. I was like, dang, we did that all the time. Just fry
Yeah.
some chicken and
Yeah.
sit back in the car and eat some chicken.
Yeah. Yeah. And not even realizing it literally came from oppression, right?
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Literally came from because they couldn't participate uh, in commerce,
Right, right, right,
you
right.
know?
Yeah,
It
man.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, man. And that's what Black History is about, man. You know what I'm saying? It's about connecting these dots. That's what it's about, man. It's not about, yeah. Look, man, trust me, it is cool. And I love hearing the stories about, the first person to
Mhm.
do whatever. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying?
Mhm.
It's cool. I do like hearing it. But I think more importantly for our culture or for the community, what I mean, we have to be able to connect the dots like this. You know what I mean? Like, oh man, when I was a kid, we had fried chicken and stuff like that. And that's how now our kids don't have to experience that, on a long trip because we can
Yeah.
we can go pull in the McDonald's, you know what I'm saying?
Right, right,
Go
right.
into a hotel. So yeah, that part of us is probably lost, in some way, shape, or form. But we try to maintain it in some sort of way, right? Like, oh, I'm gonna just keep driving, right?
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm, I'm gonna keep driving. I'm not gonna pull. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that's another form of something that came from oppression. Oppression, like these people, like, yeah, I'm gonna just keep driving. I'm
Yeah.
gonna roll the window down, try to stay awake. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
and things of that nature. You know what I'm saying? So,
So this is Ron DeSantis' like whole plan.
mhm,
Like it is literally to sever that information.
mhm, mhm,
You know, if I can get them to not think about how this connects to their grandparents or their parents, then you have a generation because this is what you go back. This is what Nixon did, Reagan did. You know what I'm saying? Like this is why education was so important to them and why
mhm.
they did the cuts that they did because the narrative that comes after they sever you from your parents and their in your parents struggle is it's so long ago
Yup.
and not even realizing if you sat down and talked to your parents and your grandparents that they're right there.
Yeah, wasn't that long ago.
Wasn't that long ago.
It wasn't that long ago, man. And that's the thing, man. Like if people go read about Hawaii and how we got Hawaii, how we colonized Hawaii, one of the first things that they did when they colonized Hawaii, they put the kids into indoctrination schools.
Mhm,
They had to give up their language, give up their religion, and give up their culture.
mm,
They did the same thing to indigenous children as
mhm,
well. You know
mhm,
what I mean? They would adopt them. Let me make sure you see my air quotes.
mhm,
Adopt them, you know what I'm saying, and put them into religious schools, indoctrination schools, and take away their culture, their language, and their religion.
mhm.
And if you forget who you are, and I can tell you who you are, you know what I mean, then you're not going to, it's easy for you to fall in line. You know what I'm saying? At that
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's easy for you to fall in line at that point. You know what I'm saying?
It's
And
it
really, that's the point of fascism. That is exactly what fascism is.
yeah.
It's easy for you to fall in line if I tell you what to believe, if I tell you what to study, if I tell you your religion. That's what
Yeah,
fascism is, man. And that's why
yeah.
Florida's a fascist state right now.
Yeah, it's a fascist state, man, and we actually, man, the rise of the ideology of fascism has increased in this country and other countries.
Hmm.
Um, because literally the literal argument that they are using in China said it out loud was democracy don't work.
Hmm. Hmm.
And we don't realize that this is what the fascists are trying to do. They're trying to make sure democracy don't work.
I try to make sure it never works.
Yes, yeah, that's their job.
And what they're saying is democracy doesn't work for the top.
Mhm,
Work for
mhm,
the top because at any point you can have redress with your government, and that's what the Declaration of Independence says. You know what I mean? If you do not like how your government is functioning and or formed, you have a right to change the government. You know what I mean?
mhm.
That's what the Civil Rights Act, that's what the Civil Rights was. You know what I'm saying? And that's what Emancipation Proclamation was. That's what 13, 14, 15 Amendment was. It changed government. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So a lot of times what these folks don't want, they don't well, I mean what they don't want a changing of government. They do not want a lot of people to have access, you know what I mean, to wealth.
Yeah.
That's the main thing, and that's what a lot of the young people are going into. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm,
They're being not the owners. They're trying to create people, not the owners. Uh, 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 People who are not the neo feudalism.
mhm.
So where you working and you never own anything. You're not going to be able
Yeah.
to own a home or own land. You know what I'm saying? And it's
Yeah. Yeah, and they're trying it, man. I see it developments pop up right now that new homes, and they tell you this whole entire community is for rent.
rent. It
I
is
said, "What
for rent.
kind of bull crap is like, what kind of bull crap is this?"
Because then when the market resets, right? They're really literally resetting the market. That's what they're
Yeah.
once the inflation goes down, and then they're like, oh well, interest rates are now 3-4%. Well, yeah, now that house is 100,000 more,
Yeah.
150,000 more.
Yeah.
What the
Yeah.
you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Yeah, man. Yeah, man. That's what they're doing with a lot of these prices. So a lot of what Ron DeSantis and others, that what they would want you to do, they don't want you to change government to where government actually works for the people. They don't.
Right. Right.
They only want government to work for the wealthy, for the corporations. You know what I mean? That's it. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. He's definitely proven that, and like it's a portion of people that don't see it.
Yeah.
But again, these are the portion of people that I'll say 10, 15 years down the road, they'll be crying like, "What happened to my Social
What happened
Security?
to Security? Yeah,
Uh,
exactly. What
I
happened
don't get Social Security anymore, and it's the damn government." And not realizing, yeah, they told you that 15 years ago, but it was a party that was doing it, and you still went and voted for them.
exactly, man. Exactly. Or they're gonna be like, "Ah, I can't contribute to my 401k.
Yeah, yeah,
I I don't make enough. I don't
yeah,
make it." I'm 80 years old. Like you saying, 80-year-old people going back to work.
Yeah, yeah,
They're
yeah.
going back to work. You know what I mean? And everybody's blaming inflation. Like, yeah, okay, yeah, that's part of it. But the other part is, you know what I mean, is the society that we have that, didn't make sure we take care of our elderly
It was a
people.
CEO that literally, as they were saying at the end of last year, when they found out that people were coming back out of retirement to go back to work, literally sat on, I think it was Squawk Box.
Mm,
And um and if you don't know what Squawk Box is, I need you to really start paying attention because that's business news.
mm,
And it's important because you got to understand the industries and what's going on in the industries. And this particular channel, unlike MSNBC and Fox News, like they really have CEOs come on there and talk.
mm-hmm,
And this particular CEO, she literally cheered and laughed and clapped because she said, "We finally got them to come back out of retirement to work."
yeah, man, that's crazy.
And here was a 50-year-old CEO that said that on TV.
That's crazy.
And you can imagine where her politics align with
Oh yeah, yeah. Republicans, the ones that want to
it. Yeah,
raise the age of Social Security.
yeah.
They want to raise that again, man. The Republican Party expects your comprehension to be on a sixth grade level. You know what I'm saying? So when your comprehension is on this sixth grade level, you don't understand that they want to raise Social Security age, right?
Mhm.
And it's crazy because you'll get some Republican voter that are like, yeah, man, raise the Social Security age. You know what I mean? They want to screw the libs so bad. You know what I'm saying? They want to own the libs so bad. You know what I mean? They just own themselves. Yeah, raise the age. Okay, well,
Yeah.
you live in a state where the life expectancy is 65, sir. So you're going to be paying into Social Security, which means more money. And who gets the benefit of that more money? Well,
Yeah.
the corporations who got the Trump tax cuts.
Mhm.
And guess what else the Republicans want to do? They want to do another round of tax cuts.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Come on,
Yeah.
man. Come
Yeah.
on.
And they want to raise taxes on everything 30%.
Everything.
Everything.
That was the first bill was to try to get rid of the IRS, man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like, that was crazy.
for a sales tax that would have raised taxes on everybody. That tells you their priorities, man. But these folks get tricked every single time because the Republicans
Yep.
went in there and they ran on what did they run on? You know what I mean? Oh, which inflation. You know,
Hmm.
we want to give people more money. They haven't passed one bill to
One
address
bill.
that.
Not
No,
nothing. But they still talk about healthcare.
bro, they still talking about Biden's laptop,
Yeah.
Hunter Biden's laptop.
Yeah. Yeah. So what has been 15 years for Obamacare?
Yeah,
Where they were arguing that should cut it, and they fought it in the courts and all this
yeah.
old nonsense, and they had a bill and so forth. It's been 15 years and they have not came up with a bill yet. You know who called it out?
Mm,
Donald Trump.
yeah.
Donald Trump sat back and said they have been talking about this bill for 10 years. Where is the bill? Donald Trump said that.
Ain't no bill, man.
And he realized after they came and said, "Hey, don't say that he never talked about it ever again."
Yeah, yeah. Because he was the one talking about he's gonna get a better healthcare,
Mhm.
and he got zero
Got 0.
because they told him to shut his mouth.
Yes.
And they told him to shut his mouth. Don't you ever bring that up again. And he never brought it up. Never brought it back
Yeah.
up.
Never brought it back up.
Never brought it back up. So,
And
it
and
is.
and this is the trickery that's going on, and I wanted to bring it back to what you were saying about like um exceptional Negroes and so forth, man. And because also we're caught in the trickery of that as well, because because what we've seen in Tennessee. was exactly the exceptional Negro play out.
Mm.
Um, Black lieutenant went to Atlanta, got fired from Atlanta because she created a team that was brutalizing the community.
The Red
Then
Dogs.
then go what's that?
The Red Dogs.
Yeah, the Red Dogs, and then go to Tennessee and do the same exact thing.
Scorpions. Mhm. Mhm.
Do the same exact thing because she's cheered along as being, the first African American that was a chief up towards there,
Mhm.
and she's a female, and
Mhm.
and all of this nonsense,
Mhm.
and you almost got to call it nonsense now because we have to get past having a black face, eh, like like in the place, and then putting a black face there and say, see,
Mhm. Yeah,
because
all is good. Everything's
all
fixed.
is good.
What are y'all complaining about? What are y'all
She
complaining about?
she
Y'all got the
she
y'all
or
got the
he
first black
or
president.
yeah, or
Mm,
LGBT, like, look at them. They have been the first to do
right.
so.
Mhm.
You know,
Yep.
because it's just like if Buttigieg becomes president, becomes the first openly, yeah, but that didn't mean in South Bend that he sat back and got rid of a whole entire black neighborhood.
Mhm.
Y-
Yeah, and more
because
importantly, oh, go ahead, go ahead. Mhm.
No, because these are the issues that we are running into because they don't, like, we have to start dealing with that, and making people that that think along that way, and it's more liberal,
Mhm.
um and get to a point that, no, we you need to deal with this part.
Mm,
We're not saying that that was a bad idea or so forth, but we don't need you to go forth if that is a bad idea. And when we say go forth, just like going forth with that same idea on
mm,
a national stage, we need you to change that and fix it
mhm.
for it's so it's better for everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, and we seen that, the exceptional Negro thing with Obama, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
People were like, "Oh, well, you got your first black president." Like, yeah, that doesn't matter because you still got people in Congress who aren't going to pass bills. That's their job.
Yeah.
It's not the president's job to pass bills. That's not their job. That's not the
Yeah.
president's job.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And quite frankly, a president should not be operating through executive orders. You know what I mean? But because our government is so dysfunctional, a president has to do that. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Because it's so partisan. But people, and especially black people. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I educate a lot of black people. Well, Obama didn't. Charlemagne always say this. Obama
Mhm.
didn't do anything for black people, sir. Do you
He's still
know who
he's still saying that
he
too.
still says that? He still says that, sir. It it was the Dixiecrats
Mhm.
in the Democrat Party
Mhm.
that told Barack Obama that he cannot have the single payer healthcare system that he asked for.
They're called blue dogs. Yeah,
Oh,
that's
no, no, no,
that
no, 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 no. These were Dixiecrats. The Blue
no,
Dogs.
no. Hold on, because
Yeah.
I just got done looking this up,
Mhm,
this week. No, so you are right that they are
mhm,
Dixiecrats, but
mhm.
where they moved into was the group of the blue dogs.
Oh, no, no,
S
no. Yeah, yeah, no, no, no. What I'm
Yeah.
saying is that there were very specific Democrats whose politics were more related to Southern politics of the 1960s. And right, the Blue Dogs, their politics are more related to Reagan. You know what I'm saying? I know what you're talking about. Their politics are more related to Reagan.
Hem Henry Cuellar is literally the quintessential Dixiecrat.
Uh
Policy-wise, if you look into Henry Cuellar, yeah,
I
that,
mean,
like,
yeah, I have to, but what I'm saying is during that Obama's first tenure, he
yeah.
had Dixiecrats, and these Dixiecrats,
Mhm.
their policies were more connected to the 1960s.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Than they were to the 2000s. So while yes, they were the individuals that did not want progress too fast,
Mhm.
right? Obama wanted. He had a whole speech. came out with, we want to get a single payer healthcare plan, blah, blah, blah. You know
Mhm.
what I'm saying? They pulled him in that office, was like, you ain't getting your single payer healthcare plan.
Yeah,
That's not what's going to happen.
yeah.
Okay. What you're going to do is you're going
Hmm.
to accept this Republican plan that's like Mitt Romney's, you know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? And then you had those blue dogs like Biden and shoot, I have to go down the list. I have to remember who were all in there. But most of the Dixiecrats got voted out in 2010. They got
There,
voted out.
there's
Yeah.
7 of them left, actually.
Uh, yeah, yeah, but my point is
7.
that my point is that there were a big coalition of them, and you know what I mean. And so when black people talk about Obama couldn't do this and couldn't do that, you have to understand the dynamics
Mhm.
of who was
Mhm.
in Congress at the time,
Right.
who was in the Senate at the time. Even now, whether you call them blue dogs or Dixiecrats,
Right, right.
you still need to understand who is in Congress right now, in the Democrat Party and in the Republican Party, that is keeping legislation from being passed. Tim Scott torpedoed his own criminal
Mhm.
justice reform bill. It was a bill he came up with.
Yeah.
Torpedoed his own amendments in the bill. You know what I'm saying? So you can't be a
That
black.
Democrats were okay with.
Well, I don't know if they were okay with it because I think that they had the people who were ready to sign on it. They just didn't have the numbers. They just didn't have the numbers. They knew the Republicans didn't have the numbers because they needed the Republicans to vote on it.
Yeah, yeah. But
Yeah.
if you go back to listen to, 1, Nancy Pelosi, and
Hmm.
then AOC, she talked about it. And it was a couple other progressive that talked about the particular bill, that
Hmm.
they knew it was an imperfect bill, but they were okay because it was things that they agreed upon that was in
Hmm.
the bill.
Hmm.
So when I'm making the statement that they were okay with it, they were okay with it being at least a cornerstone for now,
Hmm.
and then they could have built on top of it later
Yeah,
on.
because it didn't contain the one thing that they wanted, which was
Co
qualified immunity.
Correct.
And that was the one thing that they wanted, and they couldn't get it. And
Yeah.
Tim Scott got rid of it because that was the only way he was going to be able to get Republican support. And then the
Mhm.
Republicans like, nah, we ain't supporting nothing. I mean, I mean, he had the Republicans. He just didn't want to. But my whole point is this: is that before people talk about what ex president is not doing, you need
Mhm.
to understand who's in the Congress. You
Yeah.
need to understand who's in the House of Representatives. You can't sit here and say, during the Obama administration, well, Obama didn't fight for
Mhm.
this and Obama didn't fight for that. Well, I mean, he no longer had the numbers after 2010.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
He
yeah,
went he went through 6 years of
yeah.
Republican controlled Senate and a Republican controlled House of Representatives.
What he had the power for
And,
of
and,
all
and when he had the
for
power,
8 months,
when he had the
10
power,
months.
yeah, when he had the power for those 8 or 10 months, the Dixiecrats stood in his way.
Mhm.
So there was no way you were going to get this black, whatever black legislation you think you were going to get, and you didn't know,
Yeah,
who the Democrat was from North Carolina or Tennessee or
mhm,
Wisconsin or
mhm,
or, or Iowa or,
mhm,
or Michigan or
mhm,
Ohio or
mhm,
Pennsylvania. You know what I'm saying? Or Kentucky. If you did not know, all of
mhm.
these folks lost their seat, gone,
Yeah, yeah,
and
and
and, and yeah,
and it's literally to a point. What you're talking about is that brings us fast forward. That what we're talking about is the Blue Dogs, as of now,
hmm.
is now splitting. They're now splitting again because all 15 of them are in their seats are in trouble
Mhm.
because they have not progressed enough for the party, because the Democrat Party is changing. No matter
Mhm,
on how people are liking it is changing.
mhm.
And conservative Democrats that are too conservative, that they more align with the Republican
With the
Party,
Republican Party, yeah. Mhm.
are on the outs. Henry Cuellar lost his race. I mean, won his race by just a few points in a district by a person that had no name
Mhm.
recognition. That is unheard of because he has a safe seat.
Mhm.
He never got challenged until this last election, and he almost lost.
Yeah.
And they
What
understand.
state is he in?
He is in Texas. He's on one of the border towns.
Border towns, yeah, he's on
Yep.
border town, so,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. They're more conservative there,
yeah,
but
man, like,
they don't go Republican.
yeah, you
Um,
gotta understand the dynamics down there, man, it really is, yeah, yeah, you can't be yeah,
well, that's what's happening right now is even in these places that's conservative, they are looking at progressive candidates now.
mhm,
Like
mhm,
that's what's happening
mhm,
because what they have realized in some of these places that they keep voting the same way
mm,
over and over and over again, and nothing is changing or getting better.
mhm, mhm, mhm,
And at at this point, and there's younger generations that's coming along and voting, they are literally chipping away at some of these powerhouses that have been in both of these parties.
mhm,
Now on one side, it's not good, and the other side, it's good that you challenge, um, you know, uh, the mansions and those people,
mhm.
because they need to be pushed, policy wise.
Yeah, but you run into a real problem, that, yeah, eh, ri if you let's take a mansion.
Hmm.
You can't really challenge a mansion because you really run the risk of the Republican winning. So in some you have to like in some states, right? The reason why Manchin does the things that he does, you know,
Hmm.
is because he's in a red state. He's in a red state. So even if you have a Joe Manchin, you're gonna get a Joe Manchin light. That's just
Yeah,
what's
yeah.
gonna happen. And no matter how progressive, the candidates, we saw it in Louisiana, I've seen it in Kentucky, seen it
Hmm.
in other places. You still have to convince the overarching white population that
Hmm.
is poor. You have to convince them that it is in their best interest to vote based on their economics, and they're not going to do that. they're
No,
not.
no,
They're not.
no. I think the misconception is that it's supposed to be an automatic change, right? And
Hmm.
the switch is hit. No, that's not what's happening. What's happening is in a lot of these places throughout the country, what they're seeing is it's being chipped away. Doesn't matter if the progressive candidate has
No.
lost in the last election cycle. What matters is during the next election cycle, what can you gain in in those cycles? Because okay, you lost the last two election cycles, right? What was the margin? Which you probably lost by 30 points the first one. The second time you lost by 10 points.
Mm,
Okay, now the third time that you ran, which this is what's starting to happen in a lot of these places, that the progressive candidate is losing by three, is
mm,
losing by two. These are clear signs in the most conservative places that one, the Republican Party is dwindling. Two,
yeah,
the
that is. Mhm.
yeah, the Democrat Party, conservatives in the Democrat Party are losing their seats.
Mhm, mhm.
Like these are clear signs. Now, are the candidates more trying to fall in the middle of the road,
Mhm.
rather than be conservative in the Democrat Party? Yes, that's
Sometimes they have to
yes, sometimes you
because of
have to.
the
Yes.
constituents. A lot of people don't again, a lot of these people who opine and talk about these things, they do not take into consideration the people and how they think in that area, how they live their lives, you know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? So, um
Christian Cinema blew her load. She blew it because
yeah, I
she's in a purple state and
mhm.
she went too conservative
Oh, yeah, she
in
did.
a very blue district.
Yeah, I wouldn't even say she went conservative. I'd say she didn't do anything. She just
Um,
nobody can tell you what Christian Cinema's doing. Nobody. People are confused. Everybody's confused. Everybody's like they don't get it. They don't understand. She has nothing to get. Like she has nothing to gain by going against the John Lewis Voting Rights Act going against um going against any piece of legislation in the Biden administration. I'm trying to remember the other piece of legislation that she went against. The filibuster. Her going against the
George
filibuster,
Floyd.
the George Floyd Justice and
Mhm,
Policing Act,
mhm,
she has nothing to gain from going against it, right?
yeah,
Like it makes no sense. Everybody, is looking at it as, I mean, it's only money, right?
mhm,
And and she is hoping that her calculation is that more of the Republican folks from California moved into the state and they are going to vote, independently. But that's not what's going to happen. They're just going to
mm-mm,
vote for the Republican. You know what I mean?
mhm, mhm,
That's really what's going to happen. You know what I mean? And because at the end of the day, if she runs as an independent, we
mhm,
see this with Mia McLeod here in South Carolina, who's just switched her vote to independent. And I like Mia. I really do
mhm,
like. But she's in a safe district. She'll be all right. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
But Kristen Cinema, if she switches her vote to independent, well, she's going to pull voters from the Democrat.
uh,
I mean,
it's not
and
gonna work. It's
I,
not gonna work.
it's Arizona.
All early polling right now, and I know about polling.
It's
I
Arizona. I'm telling
I know it's polling, and you can't trust the polling and so
you,
forth.
can't trust the polling, man.
But
You can't
but
trust that polling.
but but if
Mhm.
there's still always a story to tell when you look at polling that literally says things like 68% and 13%.
Yeah,
Those margins, you ain't sitting back muffing up the margins that bad. You're just not.
I would my I know what the demographics of Arizona look like. I know what those people, having lived in Arizona, even though it was a
Yeah.
long time ago, and
Mhm.
I know the people that are moving into Arizona. You know what I'm saying? And she made a calculated move because of the people in Arizona, not because of the polls,
Yeah.
because of the people in Arizona. She made that calculated move, and that's why she did it. You know what I mean?
I'm telling you right now what's going on in Arizona, that when you look it up, that she lost local funding, not out
Mhm.
of state funding and so forth, because the constituents, they said their constituents were called. She's not going to win the race, bro. She's not, and it's going to be an uphill battle for her, and she knows it. She knows it. Only thing she's trying to do
Oh
now
yeah, yeah. That's why she
is
went
split the ticket, and
to
she's
split the
hoping a Republican wins.
right, 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 right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's her only
Yeah, that's her out.
yeah, 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 man. But
But the chances of a Republican winning in a blue district, like the district is blue. Like it ain't shades of purple. Like
hmm
it's blue.
hmm
So the chances of a Republican actually winning, even if splitting the ticket, it just ain't. It's impossible. Now, will it be a close race? Probably so.
Mhm.
And if they do the same thing that they've been doing in the last election, putting up their fake electrics in Arizona, you know, what I mean? If they pull that again, which they are trying, they are still trying.
Mhm.
That yeah, anything could be possible at that point because this is all the GOP got left is trickery and cheating.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, man. Yeah, yeah. Anyway, yeah, man.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's gonna be. I mean, we got time. I mean, she don't run for election until 24. So, or no, she just won. So she got till 26, I think. So she got time. No, no, 24.
no, 24.
Yeah,
Yeah,
24. Yeah, she's up in
yeah.
24. Yeah,
She already got
yeah, she's up
her
in 24.
component her opponent.
Yeah, 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 man.
Yeah.
Yeah. But but yeah, man. Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Final words.
Man, my final words is look, man. Us as a black community and group, um, let's not try to be exceptional Negroes as we go forward. Keep hitting this glass ceiling, but understand that it's not about you getting in that position and then falling back in the lounge chair.
Mm,
Because that's what that's what we've been seeing over the last few years after people get to a certain position that has not been filled with African Americans or black folk or brown folk. They have gotten that position and went on easy street.
mm.
It is still more fight left. We will always be fighting. And with that, man, keep going forward, man, and let's try to help out community.
Yeah, yeah, man. One thing I'll say, man, is that people just need to understand, man, history isn't something that just reserved for the past. History is happening right now. Um, what happened in 2020 with COVID, that was history. You know what I mean? That is people 10, 20 years from now, we're going to be talking about COVID. You know what I mean? Just the same way people 10 from 10, 20 years from now are going to be studying how social media dumbed down the American population or dumbed down populations in general. They're already looking at how TikTok is different in America versus in China. You know what I'm saying? So with that, man, like when it comes to Black history, we have to understand context. So you have to be able to read, more history, be curious about history, and stop pushing this narrative that, just because our heritage begins at an auction block, or a slave ship, and it goes through slavery and Jim Crow and everything in between up until 2023, we're still we're still making history. Our culture is historic. What we're doing, what we're speaking about today, yesterday, and tomorrow is history. Okay. Um, and it's good to talk about the firsts and celebrate the firsts, but we need to talk about the seconds, thirds, fourths, and the fifths and the sixths. Okay, we really have to get beyond um, regurgitating the same folks every February, and let's start talking about data. Let's start talking about data. Where are we in the economic system? Where are we in the economic system? Because what most people don't understand is that most Black businesses fail within the first 8 months.
Mhm,
That is a fact. You can look that up. You
mhm,
know what I mean? What most people don't understand is that during 2020, Black businesses fell down to 47%.
mhm,
What people don't understand is during the recession of 2008, 2009, Black businesses fell down to about 20%, 15%. You know what I'm saying? So, home ownership, education, environment, all of that is history. We can't just keep talking about the first Black person to create a who's a what's it back in 1875. That's cool. It really is. But who's creating the new who's a what's it? Who's the black person creating the cell phone? Who's the black person creating the super soaker? Who's the black person that's creating fan page? You know, who's the black person that's creating the next? Let's talk about that. We need to talk about that more, man. Yeah, man. With that, you know, we out, man. Y'all
Yeah.
enjoy y'all's Black History Month. Oh, and in Black History Month, read the Constitution. Read the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, and read the Emancipation Proclamation. This is our Declaration of Independence, the Emancipation Proclamation. This is Black people's Declaration of Independence. Wasn't written by us, but it was written for us. And we out.
Yeah.